Hi everyone, I'm Libby, and welcome back to Liberatory Love, Elegance Lab, Fully Charged Life, or wherever you are viewing this video. One of the words I've used to describe myself this year is the word creatrix. And my own personal way of describing myself when I'm just speaking to myself is adventure creatrix. Creatrix for me, it's not a made-up word, it comes from Latin, but it means a feminine creator. And for me, it means this bridge between divine and human, this acknowledgement that there is this timeless, infinite part of myself, and also that I'm living in a human body, in a human experience, and that the beauty of what I get to create is that I have both of these parts. I also introduce this word with the people that I work with as a way to start to bridge what's happening in our personal lives and what's happening in our professional lives. And I'm not going to pretend that this is an easy bridge for me personally to toe. I have tried deeply to keep separate my personal and professional so that I can have greater ease and connection to myself outside of a capitalistic culture that seeks to take and extract my energy. That being said, I have come to find that every single aspect of my life is a part of my evolution. And this increasingly is something that is being reflected back to me and the clients and the people that come to me in my first year of both doing relationship coaching and doing creative business consulting. What is happening in someone's relational life deeply impacts how they show up in their professional world, and what is happening in their professional world shows up in their relationship life. And it's my hope and my desire to see a greater bridge between these two things, specifically people who are working on boldly stepping forth into our collective with new ideas and new practices. So pause here if you're feeling defensive, feeling like this doesn't apply to you. Most likely work right now is a job and is something that you are doing to contribute in society and pay the bills. And that is a space that many of us will be in and will be in for a time, but many of us are seeking ways to shift and shake and rock that paradigm. And as I said at the beginning, I'm here to be an adventurer. So I want to speak to the part of you specifically. I want to hold space for the parts of you that exist in this current economic system and the suffering that these parts of ourselves undergo by existing in an economic system that is designed for a specific purpose, and that purpose doesn't reflect the value of adventure and infinite growth on the internal level. It reflects infinite growth on an outer level. And because we have limits on the outer, there's a sense of our boundaries always being pushed upon. So I want you to imagine for a moment a version of yourself and a version of a world and a version of our economy where the outer limits are actually respected. This includes brain, this includes body, this includes even spiritual and emotional limits. At the same time, the acknowledgement of the infinite sides of ourselves are the parts that are emphasized. So you might not be able to perfectly picture this, but I want you to play with that. I want you to play with that is who I'm speaking to. The part who feels exhausted is valid, has been extracted from, has been ignored. That part of you's boundaries has been exploited. But we're looking at a version of you that exists within another kind of economy, another kind of way of being. This way of being, humans are connected with each other differently. Humans are connected with our systems differently. We've actually designed systems that uplift our energy, uplift our joy, uplift our power, uplift our strength, honor each other, express justice, become more of ourselves through our connection to each other, honor rest. This might sound utopian, but this is the utopia that we get to start to live into at the same time. And this tension we get to grapple with. And it's not on me, it's not my intention today to sit here and say how we hold the both and of one of these worlds continuing to put strain on us and another one emerging. But it is my idea today to actually uplift this vision, that it exists at all, that it's coming forth, and that you get to participate in it. And it's my hope in particular to bring something into the conversation. Because I'm an adventure creatrix, I like to play. I am here not just to create with the divine and the physical. I am here to actually play, to create paths that haven't been here before. And the path that I'm most excited to create is one that I have no idea where it will go. And that's why I'm most excited to create it. And it is the path of bringing God into our speech and our dialogue. This was the first year that I practiced this. And I actually didn't use it by bringing the word God in. I practice this by bringing the words sexuality and religion together through my coaching, Liberatory Love. And this was a huge space of fear for me. The worlds of religion and sexuality have been separate in my life, and I've kept it for the most part that way, although people who know me probably would say something different, but at least for me, that's what it's felt like. And so this was the first year where I began to say, not only am I going to begin to speak openly about them, and people who were on the opposite sides are going to hear me talking about it, and I'm going to feel uncomfortable because of these worlds merging, but also I'm going to begin to hold space for others in this. I had actually begun to experience it through my training in a relationship coaching program the year prior, but in this program, there wasn't room for this. There actually was no attention to this. In an entire program about trauma healing and an entire program about sacred sexuality, which is to say, using tools from Chinese and Indian medicine systems to open up the body and create healing for a person on a very deep level, on a level that has been shown through research to have similar effects as psychedelic therapy. There was no discussion of religion. And this was interesting because majority of the people in that space were, once I began using the phrase religious trauma, were actually overcoming some type of religious trauma and purity culture. And so this is the really interesting thing about consciousness and change. If we live in our current, let's go back to world A, we're going to do world A, world B. In world A, in the economy we live in right now, and the extractive ways of connecting with each other, consciousness is not acknowledged. And therefore, the best thing we can do when we're trying to change something is just motivate through in and output factors, right? It's just all cause and effect, and everything can be measured. And so there's not an account for consciousness. But in the world where we're looking at where energy is actually grown and revitalized through the ways that we connect and through the systems we've created, where justice is a value and love is a constant, in this world, consciousness is used. So our action is not just seen as what we do and a bunch of levers that we're twisting and turning to try to get results that we want, which is actually just a world of massive control. It involves awakening consciousness. It involves awakening unknown and stepping into the unknown. And so, in order to awaken consciousness, we actually have to question the paradigms that exist, and we get to use our words and we get to use our language. And so, what I found from learning, from observing how there was this barrier in this place that had so much expansive healing and yet was not talking about religion, was that there was a degree to which consciousness was being blocked. And this is the same thing that I see happening across healing spaces and workspaces right now. By not talking about God, we are ignoring an I can't even say an elephant in the room. We're ignoring the room that we're in. And we are also limiting what is possible in our consciousness because there's an active part of our brain that has to shut down that part that is actually questioning that piece. I'm not saying every single person is questioning this piece. However, most people who I meet have a lot of baggage in this area, whether or not they were raised religious, spiritual, or atheist or agnostic. Conversing in this area alone creates a release of energy. I have witnessed this in the discussions that I have and the changes that people make in their lives just by having the space to talk about it. So after a year of working with people on Liberatory Love and beginning to create space for people to ultimately work with their energy, work with their body, but just creating that little bit of room where it is safe to actually talk about religion and safe to talk about God, I've seen a whole opening in myself and in others for newness. Now, ding, 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 I'm coming back to this vision of the economy, of the life, of the service, of the connection that I personally am seeking to live into, and that many people I meet are seeking to live into, yet confused of how to do it. There's infinite ways of how we can do it. But my proposal is that unless we are connecting this conversation about God, we're actually missing an entire aspect of energy that could be discussed. My hope as I enter 2025 is to be a catalyst in opening up this valve. And what I love about this is that I have no idea where it's going to go. And that's what excites me. It feels incredibly boring and suffocating to continue to create within a social system where the dialogue about God is so limited. And it's limited in a way that serves things that do not serve the second kind of economy that we're living into. By example, when we choose not to speak about God because we fear that it's going to create a kind of discourse or a kind of life where there's church and state combined, or where people are participating in blind faith, or where the rational side of a human mind is shut down. These are all fears. The opposing side of this is actually opening up rationality, is actually expanding an exploration of what science is and what its limits are, of actually exploring what spirituality is from a what degree do I enact it and what degree is it moving on its own. All of these things are conversations that we ourselves cannot control, but the act of talking about them, thinking about them, will lead to the unknown. Another thing when we choose not to speak about this subject is that there's a very, very primal and childish fear in many of us. And so, sorry, let's just go back for a minute. The first point I'm making is that not talking about God actually keeps that cycle of people who want to use the word God in the way that they want to use it, getting to kind of hijack that word, which is destructive because that's like if we had water, we all needed water to drink. And a few people were saying, like, water is only available at this water fountain and it's only available for these people. And to have water, you have to shut off your thinking mind. And to have water, you also have to deny these other things in society. Like, of course, you'd say, I don't want water then because I don't want all of that bullshit. But that is handing over the power to the people who are creating whatever the fuck narrative they want with that. So that's first off a fear that of connecting with the word that really hinders human intelligence. It looks down on human intelligence. It assumes that we couldn't both be intelligent and discuss things that are beyond what we can control. The second part of this is that there's a very childish and primal fear, which is rejection, because our mainstream social landscape is one where science is at the top of the hierarchy. Then talking about religion puts out the fear of I will be rejected, I will lose my job, I will be seen as unintelligent or irrational. And this also is a really sad way to engage in this next 75 years, which we're in, much more than that. But right now we're entering 2025. In 1925, where were we? And in 2025, where are we? And in 2125, where are we going to be? That's what I want to ask you for this part of you that feels a fear of rejection. From the 1860s onward, we experienced a surge in technological innovation. And so I just want to ask, what is the fear now? If you're someone who fears being rejected for talking about God, what is the fear now? If you're a scientist, if you are a spiritual person within your New Age community, within your scientific community, and if you're belonging to a specific religious community and you know that the way that you talk about God is going to shift or question the dynamics of how God is talked about there, if you're afraid there, what is it that you're actually afraid of? And can you consider that there's space for you, first of all, and also that God's bigger. God is bigger than that. God is bigger than that fear. God is bigger than that community. God is bigger than that set of words. God will not be limited to that. And I guess the final thing that I'll say here is that as an inner child's coach, as someone who's worked with well, I'm a relationship coach, but within the relationship framework I work with the inner child. And I laugh because it's, the very, very powerful thing about working with the inner child is you see how much power the child has. It does not matter what age you are. You can be 20, 30, 50, and a 5-year-old is still making your decisions. Even for me, it's easy to talk about it, but in my own life, facing this is extremely painful. But once you start to see it, once you start to work with people, and you might not be doing this, but I do. And you sit across from full-grown adults and you watch their child come forth. Excuse me. Anyone who works with the body knows that when we start to get trapped in our throats when we're speaking, typically something we haven't. So I will just paint a picture for a moment of what it feels like to be on the coach of incredibly wise and intelligent adults working with the inner child. What happens is you watch a human in front of you and you watch a version of them come out that is very evidently that age. Yes, they look like an adult, but the things that they're saying, the things that they're feeling, even the way they're holding their body is still trapped in that moment of childhood. Because in that moment, the love was not given, the protection was not given, the safety was not given, the care was not given. And so this in therapy is a whole process that we call reparenting. Reparenting oneself, reparenting one's inner child. And in my work, since I support people to heal their relationship to the feminine and the masculine, which involves their relationship to their mother and their father, but it also involves their relationship to our justice system and to other forces of power and control, including their relationship to God, Goddess, Earth, and any other forms of power that they were educated around. I see another need. And that need is for us collectively right now to face the inner child in our collective consciousness that thinks that God is so small that we can't both grow in our scientific exploration and grow in our exploration of who and what God is. And this is the part that I'm here to play with for the rest of this century. There's a plenty of other things I'm going to be doing, but I'm not going to be doing it with the frameworks that exist, and I'm not going to be doing it absent of the word God. And so I just want to say, if you feel a sense of fear around talking about God and exploring God, that you have a place, there's space for you. God's bigger than this. God's bigger than this fear. And on a very literal level, you can work with both liberatory love, which is about healing your relationship to the feminine and masculine, and becoming a more heart open, embodied version of who you are. And you can work with Elegance Lab, which is a creative consulting company that acknowledges higher power and works with that deepened intelligence. But also, if you just want to be a human and live a little bit more spaciously in this world, if you needed permission, here it is.